what's our thoughts on episode 4 of Behind the Attraction, which covered the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror. This was an interesting episode. It was good, but it was not a wow kind of episode. Because obviously, a bit like the last one, it deviated slightly, just a bit, and it's like, ugh. It was like, as I watched, I was like, right, you've got my attention, but then you lost it by just deviating off course by focusing on the DCA version, which of course is a completely different thing now. Oh, we'll get to that. So yeah, I'm gonna dive straight into it. So, Twilight Zone Tower has never been an attraction that I've ever wanted to do. But I always do. Whenever I walk past it in Paris, I always do love it. I love the style of it. It's absolutely, it's so iconic. It's so iconic. It's because of the attraction that's so iconic. You just look at that. You just have to marvel. Even if you are not tempted to go in, you can't just help but look at that and just be sort of marbled at it. And that's what I feel like every time. So it's very interesting to see, you know, behind it all and everything that we've learned about the tone and everything. It's very different between the Twilight Zone. What's very interesting though is that this attraction had a lot of parameters. You know, very early on we kept listing all the different parameters that were being bold as being, oh my god, that's like being really, is that really something that needs to be discussed here about parameters? We're going that's how we. But it was so interesting. And what was very interesting to learn that originally the idea was they wanted this attraction to not be just an attraction, but also a hotel. And being way down here. And that, so there's an actual full working blown hotel where you would have, you know, your reception lobby, you know, a meet and greet area for characters. You've got your bedrooms, your breakfast diner. No, that would never work. I mean, you literally would be up all night in with all the constant screaming that you'd hear. It just it would not work. I mean, that's just no. Oh dear, oh dear. So thankfully that idea got scrapped. It'd be interesting because that would never would have worked. That just would not have worked one bit. That really would not. It just would not have worked. I mean, it's hard enough when you have to go when I'm down in London for into the West End and have to stay in their hotels, you hear all the busy streets and noise. But that's fine because me, I'm only whenever I go to West End, I'm only ever there for the weekend. Just something like Spy, but have to do that constantly? I don't think so. So thankfully, that idea was scrapped from the get-go straight away. Thank God for all of our sins. I mean, it'd be great because you'd feel like you actually were in the attraction, but at the same time, it's not really going to give me a good night's rest ready for another full day of going in the park. Yeah. No, that was never gonna work. Not one bit. It's very interesting how they go all the mechanisms. We went into full detail about explaining how all the mechanisms went in to make it work. And given how, okay, yeah, so obviously we were inside Air Base, as we all know. Air Base, it goes just basically just go up and down. You know, the doors don't open in the Air Base, because of course that's one of the features that obviously that Disney wanted to include in Tower of Terror. Of course, the Magic is like, well, they don't open. And explain more about it. It's very interesting. And what I loved is how they went into the Twilight Zone and talked how that set the tone for the ride. And that for me is kind of sort of the importance for this particular attraction, because its source material really helps to set the tone for the ride. And sadly, with what's happened with DCA, you've now lost that tone. It's a completely different ride. Even on the outside, oh my god, we will get to the moment. It looks like a complete big mess. On the inside, it's even worse because it's completely unrecognisable. It just really is. Oh dear. yeah, but even though I've never really seen Twilight Zone, I do love how that helped to set the tone for this ride, and it's just been absolutely brilliant. And of course, we also got into the detail about how, when it came to replicating this for various different resorts, because obviously this began in Florida, then obviously it eventually worked its way into California, and then they were thinking, right, well, let's actually go further, let's take it to Tokyo, and also let's take it to Paris. But what I loved is how they didn't just go, well, let's just replicate them. They actually thought, right, okay, and they actually said in this episode with Japan, they're not really familiar with the Twilight Zone. They have no idea what it is about. So what I loved is how they thought about that. Okay, right, okay, how can we develop this for a resort that's probably not familiar with the story behind it, and how can we make it something unique to them? And so for Tokyo, which ended up being Tokyo Disney Sea, the storyline is a bit more complex. And it involves the adventures of the hotel's famous builder and owner, who went on many expeditions throughout the world and collected thousands of priceless artifacts. Most of these artifacts were stolen by her again and stored in the hotel. Well, and they go on about how that expedition eventually that obviously led to a bit of a disaster, and eventually, obviously, so it helps to set the tone easily. So it's like a completely different story while trying to keep sort of those elements intact. Paris was quite interesting because I always thought that Paris was just basically simply like replicating from California, but in actual fact, let me try and find it. Paris also has a story to it as well, in where they took one of the characters and made them sort of like the centerpiece in these, and it helped to tell a different story to the rider to make it something new and exciting for our Parisian viewers. I've actually found some Twilight Zone references in the attraction. So, that's interesting. Lots actually. There's too much to go through, which we'll do. But yeah, so I loved how when it came to to replicate this ride for different resorts, they didn't just simply, well, let's just put the exact replica in it. They actually thought it through and went with, okay, right, let's do something different instead, which is absolutely brilliant. And of course, the problem with Paris is the positioning. It's positioned in Production Courtyard, but the problem with that is it's kind of on the outskirts of what was once, because obviously now this episode is being recorded since that was gone. So what used to be Backlot, so before you get into Backlot, that's kind of where Tower is. But of course now Backlot's Avengers Campus, it's now going to get a bit messy, because it's like, oh, where is it now lying in? Could that maybe lead to a Guardians of the Galaxy? Like, oh, please no. Ugh. But yeah, so whilst with the other resorts they actually thought through where to put it, in Paris it just wasn't thought through well at all. It really, really wasn't. Right, speaking of Guardians of the Galaxy, I've saved it long enough. Let's get into it. So, in Disney California Adventure, so DCA, in 2017, they transformed their version of the Twilight Zone Tower Terror into a completely different experience, feeding on Guardians of the Galaxy. You know, at the time, the second film was coming out, and they wanted to do a new attraction, but of course didn't have all the time and resources to build a brand new one, so they thought, oh, let's re-theme a classic attraction! Nothing could go wrong. Well, okay, you say that, and of course they all talk about how what was great and everything, but actually, if you've ever been in Disney California Adventure, you will see it's a glorified mess. It's just absolutely a glorified mess. Because I actually have been to, I'm going to try and find some pictures of it on my screen to help me explain this. Because I actually have been to Disney California Adventureland, and I have seen it. Not gone in it, but I have seen it. And I look at the outside and think, oh my god, what glorified mess is this? Because basically, on the outside, right, it's like with Hyperspace Mountain. On the outside, it still looks like the attraction it's replacing. But on the inside, totally different experience. And it just looks so... oh my god, it just looks so weird and wrong. It just looks horrible. It's nothing about... it's just... it just looks like a boarded up factory about to have some building works done to it, or construction. It just looks horrible. And it just looks completely unrecognisable. It's just a great big mess. And I look at that thinking, what the hell is that meant to be? Really, that's just, And of course, by changing it to bits new, it means you lose the tone of the ride. You lose what made that ride so good. Because when you go on Tower of Terror, you want to be scared. You want to feel like you're scared because you basically go up. No, it's kind of like because obviously essentially it's a drop ride. So basically you go up, and eventually you will have to face the drop. So like that. That literally should treat fear even to the bravest of men. But with what we now get in DCA, you lose that tone. You lose the tone. So instead of you now having that scare factor, it's now just basically a giddy raw, where it's basically just got, it's almost like you're on a trampoline instead. That's the kind of, the boing, boing, all that sort of thing. Instead, so basically you lose, by changing this into a completely different thing, you lose everything that makes the attraction so iconic. Now, of course, a lot of people still go on it, but that's because obviously reasons. But what I'm trying to say is you lose that tone of what made it so good. Because this was an iconic attraction. And I'm going to bring up the old saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And unfortunately, that lesson was not learned here. Yeah, so it just loses the tone. Plus, we also covered this on an episode on Imagineering Story. We've already covered this, so it's like, again, a bit like how with Star Tours, the last episode, it deviated away and started talking about Galaxy's Edge for the American viewers. I didn't need to know that, because that's not what we're learning about here. We're supposed to be learning about this particular attraction. We don't need to learn about everything else. So again, it just, the last sort of 10 minutes just basically deviated away. I'm just like, I don't need to know about this. I'd rather know about what the main attraction is supposed to be, which of course is supposed to be. Yes, in the last episode of Imagineering Story, they covered it. So, as they did with Galaxy's Edge. So we don't need, so if you want to know about the Mission Breakout, you could have gone and watched episode 6 of the Imagineering Story. You didn't need to do that. You could have spent a little bit more time, talking about, about the Tower of Terror a bit more on the airmen. Maybe bring up some of those references that were incorporated in the overall attraction. Not focus on something that that is completely irrelevant to the overall picture. I don't need to know about this. I'd rather focus on, because like I said, you had me at the beginning. You had me intrigued. You had intrigued. I was being, yeah, I'm really getting into this. Oh, quite like a lot about attraction. Oh, the references. A nice little reference to Twilight. So I'm doing all this. And then, as soon as we started mentioning the Guardians of the Galaxy side, I was like, no, you've lost me. You've lost me. It's like, you almost had me ready to say, yeah, this is a great episode, it's the best one so far, and then, no, back down to earth. So it's just really not getting the feels for this so far. We're 4 episodes in. It's for me, so it just feels like a bit of a mixed bag, because there's so much more we could talk about, but, yeah. But look, I was really intrigued with the whole Terra side. I loved the little part about that. I loved hearing how the mechanism went into it. Loved hearing how what they did to make it appealing to different parks, but it just let, and of course, tone was very important, because obviously tone is very important, but again, it just let it down. It just let it down there with mention of the whole Guardians of the Galaxy side, but all in all, it was an okay episode. I'm not going to say it was the greatest one yet, it was okay, but obviously that mention just let it down really badly. Okay, so we're going to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us. If you have loved this show, then do click the like button. And if you haven't subscribed yet, come back and click the subscribe button. That way you'll never miss a single moment when you contact episodes of Plus the Mouse. Until next time, with me says, au revoir.